The narrow corridor of the spaceship hummed softly with the pulse of distant engines. Flickering lights cast long shadows on the metal walls. Mara moved carefully, her boots making quiet taps against the floor. Her heart beat steadily, but her mind was sharp and alert. Somewhere ahead, an alien was hiding an intruder on her ship. Mara held her plasma pistol tightly. It was a weapon she trusted, light and fast. Her fingers brushed the safety switch as she crept forward, eyes scanning. Every corner dot. Suddenly, a dark shape stepped out from the shadows. The alien's skin was a deep shade of green, with smooth scales that caught the faint light. His eyes glowed faintly yellow, cold but curious. He held no weapon, but his smile was dangerous. "Stop right there," Mara said firmly, raising her pistol and aiming it directly at him. "Any last words?" The alien raised his hand slowly, not in surrender, but in a strange gesture of amusement. "Yeah," he said calmly, "your safety is on." Mara's heart jumped. For a moment, she froze, her mind racing. The safety switch. On her gun, she had forgotten to turn it off. How could she have made such a simple mistake? The alien took a slow step forward, his eyes never leaving Mara's. She could feel the tension rising like electricity in the air. It was a standoff. But suddenly the balance had shifted. Mara's hand moved quickly. She flipped the safety off in one smooth motion and pointed the pistol more firmly. "Don't try anything," she warned. The alien chuckled softly. "You humans think you are always prepared, but sometimes even the best make mistakes." Mara's eyes narrowed. "I'm not done yet." She raised the pistol and fired a warning shot just over his shoulder. The plasma bolt sizzled past and slammed into the wall behind him, sending sparks flying. Zorn, that was the alien's name, stepped back, clapping slowly. "Impressive. You are brave." "Brave or foolish," Mara muttered, watching him carefully. "Why are you here? What do you want?" Zorn's smile faded, replaced by something more serious. "I was sent to stop the ship. But maybe things are not what they seem." Mara didn't lower her gun. "Explain." Before Zorn could answer, the ship's loudspeaker crackled to life with a sharp alarm. Warning. Unauthorized breach detected. Hostile forces boarding the vessel. The corridor lights flickered urgently, bathing the hallway in red. Mara's breath caught. This was worse than she thought. The ship wasn't just under threat from one alien. There were more coming. Zorn's eyes widened. "This is not good." Mara glanced at him, then back at her pistol. "Looks like we have bigger problems than just you." For a moment, neither moved. Then Zorn took a step closer, lowering his hands. "Maybe we can help each other." Mara hesitated, but nodded slowly. The alien's words made sense. Alone, neither of them could survive this attack. Together, they moved quickly through the ship's corridors. Mara led the way, her pistol ready. Zorn followed, his sharp senses alert to any sign of danger. They reached the cargo bay, where a group of hostile soldiers were trying to force the heavy doors open. Mara raised her pistol and fired. The plasma bolts hit the floor near the soldiers, forcing them to duck behind crates. Zorn moved with surprising speed, using a strange device to disable the soldiers' weapons. Mara watched him, amazed. Despite their differences, they worked well as a team. "Why are they attacking?" Mara asked quietly. Zorn shook his head. "They want the ship's control codes. If they get them, they can destroy this entire fleet." Mara's eyes widened. "We have to stop them." They pushed forward, setting traps and barricades. Mara's training as a pilot and Zorn's knowledge of alien technology made them a strong pair. At every corner, they faced danger, but Mara's quick reflexes and Zorn's clever strategies kept them alive. After a tense hour, they found a quiet room to catch their breath. Mara looked at Zorn. "Why did you try to stop me before?" Zorn's expression grew serious. "Because sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend." Mara nodded slowly, feeling a new respect for the alien beside her. The fight was far from over, but for now, they had a chance. Together, they could protect the ship and maybe change the future. Mara's breath came fast as the alarm continued to echo through the ship's metal halls. Red emergency lights flashed, casting a sharp glow on the cold walls. She and Zorn stood together in a small room near the cargo bay. Their brief moment of calm about to end. "Do you trust me?" Zorn asked quietly, his glowing eyes fixed on Mara. She hesitated. "I don't know if I trust you yet, but right now, we need each other." Zorn nodded. "Good, trust will come later. For now, we fight." Mara glanced down at her plasma pistol. Her fingers tightened around the grip. She felt the weight of the mistake she had made earlier, leaving the safety on. It was a small error, but it could have cost her everything. She was determined not to make that mistake again. Suddenly, footsteps pounded down the corridor outside. The hostile soldiers were coming fast. Mara whispered, "Get ready." The door burst open, and a group of heavily armed soldiers charged into the room. Mara fired quickly. The plasma bolt sang through the air, hitting the metal floor and walls with sparks and heat. Two soldiers dropped immediately, but the others pressed forward. Zarn moved fast, pulling a strange device from his belt. It looked like a small box with blinking lights. He pointed it at the soldiers' weapons and pressed a button. With a soft hum, the soldiers' guns went silent, and sparks flew from their barrels, confused and disarmed. The soldiers hesitated, giving Mara the chance to fire again. One by one, they fell back or surrendered. Mara's eyes widened. "What was that?" Zarn smiled slightly. "A weapon jammer. I brought it for emergencies." She nodded, impressed. "You're more prepared than I thought." Zarn shrugged. "I try." The room grew quiet again. But Mara knew it wouldn't last. "We need to move," she said. "If they regroup, they'll come back stronger." Zarn agreed. "The control room is still at risk. We must protect it." Mara took a deep breath and led the way out. They moved through twisting corridors, alert to every sound. As they turned a corner, a loud crash echoed behind them. Mara glanced back. The soldiers had broken through a bulkhead and were chasing fast. "Run!" she shouted. They sprinted down the hall, dodging pipes and debris. Mara's legs burned, but she pushed harder. Zarn kept pace beside her, moving with surprising speed for his size. Suddenly, Mara skidded to a stop and grabbed Zarn's arm. Ahead was a narrow stairwell leading down into the ship's lower decks. It was their best chance to lose the pursuers. They dashed down the stairs at a time. The sound of footsteps grew louder above them, but soon the noise faded. Mara's lungs burned as she reached the bottom. She looked around. The lower decks were quieter, with fewer lights and more shadows. Zarn pointed to a nearby room. "This way. It is a maintenance chamber." Mara nodded and they slipped inside. The door hissed shut behind them. For a moment, they caught their breath. Mara wiped sweat from her forehead. "Thanks for the save back there," she said. "That jammer really helped." Zarn smiled. "We must use every tool we have." Mara's eyes searched his face. "Why are they attacking the ship? Who sent them?" Zarn's expression darkened. "It is a complex story. The people who sent them want to stop something on this ship. Something very important." Mara frowned. What could be so important that they'd risk a full attack? Zarn's voice was low, a secret that could change everything for both our worlds. Mara's mind raced. She had heard rumors about secret weapons and dangerous technology. Could it be true? Suddenly, the ship's intercom crackled. A calm, robotic voice spoke. "Warning, power levels dropping in the central control room. Unauthorized access detected." Mara's eyes narrowed. "They're trying to hack the controls. If they succeed, they could take over the ship." Zarn stood up. "We cannot allow that." They moved out of the maintenance room carefully. Mara led the way, pistol ready. The corridors grew darker and more twisted. The ship's emergency systems were failing, and strange noises echoed through the halls. They reached a junction where the path split. Mara checked the map on her wrist device. "The control room is this way," she said. Zarn nodded. "We must hurry." As they turned the corner, Mara spotted movement ahead. 3 more hostile soldiers blocked their path. Ambush. She shouted. The soldiers raised their weapons, firing immediately. Mara dove to the side. Plasma bolts zipping past her. She fired back, hitting one soldier in the arm. He dropped his weapon with a cry. Zarn charged forward, using his strength to push a soldier against the wall. The soldier struggled, but Zorn's grip was firm. Mara fired again, taking down the last attacker. Breathing hard, she looked at Zorn. This is getting worse. Zorn's eyes were steady. It is because they know we are close. They want to stop us. Mara nodded. We can't let them. They move faster, the ship's alarms growing louder. The red emergency lights flickered in the hallways like warnings. At last, they reached the control room door. Mara reached for the keypad. Fingers moving quickly, Zorn watched the corridor behind them, tense and ready. With a soft beep, the door slid open. Inside, the room was dark except for blinking consoles and floating holographic screens. Mara rushed to the main control panel. Power levels are unstable, she said. Someone's trying to override the systems. Zorn moved to another terminal. Fingers flying over alien symbols. I'm shutting down their access. Mara worked quickly, entering codes and resetting systems. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. The hull groaned as if under great pressure. Hold on, Mara shouted. The control room door slammed shut with a heavy clang. Outside, footsteps approached. Zorn moved to the door and placed his hand on a panel. I am locking it. The lock clicked into place just as a group of soldiers slammed into the door, trying to force it open. Mara's eyes were fierce. We can hold them here. Zorn nodded. Together. The two stood side by side, ready to defend the heart of the ship. Mara glanced at her pistol. Safety off and ready. Let them come, she said quietly. Zarn smiled. We will show them what humans and aliens can do when they work as one. The battle was just beginning. The heavy door of the control room rattled as the hostile soldiers pushed against it. Mara and Zorn stood firm, their weapons ready, outside. The sound of pounding footsteps echoed through the corridor like thunder. We won't let them in, Mara said, her voice steady despite the danger. She tightened her grip on her plasma pistol. Zorn placed his hand on a small console beside the door, activating a force shield that shimmered blue across the entrance. This shield will hold for a short time. We must act quickly. Mara nodded. What's our plan? Zorn studied the holographic map floating between them. The ship's AI can lock down other sections. We can trap the soldiers in the lower decks if we cut power to their route. Mara's eyes lit up. Good idea. Let's do it. Zorn moved to the control panel and began entering commands. Fingers flying over strange alien symbols. Mara watched the door, ready to fire at the first sign of an attack. Suddenly, the force shield flickered as heavy blows hit the door. Sparks flew, and the metal frame creaked. Time was running out. Almost there, Zorn muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. The glowing symbols on the screen shifted quickly. A loud bang shook the room as the door's outer frame cracked. Mara fired a quick blast, pushing the attackers back a little. Done, Zorn said, pressing the final button. Powers cut to the lower decks immediately. The lights in the corridors outside dimmed and flickered. The soldiers' movement was slowed by locked doors and deactivated elevators. Their advance stalled. Mara smiled. That should buy us some time. Zorn let out a breath. Yes, but this is only the beginning. Mara glanced at the holographic map. Where are we headed next? Zorn pointed to a small room marked on the map. The communications center. If we can send a distress signal, maybe help will come. Mara nodded. Lead the way. They moved cautiously through the ship's dim corridors. The air was thick with tension and the faint smell of burnt circuits. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Suddenly, the ship's intercom crackled to life. A calm, robotic voice announced, "Warning! Hostile forces detected. Security protocols activated." Mara felt a chill. The ship was fighting back, but so were the invaders. As they reached the communications center, Mara found the door locked with a biometric scanner. She frowned. I don't have access to this. Zorn stepped forward. Allow me. He pressed his hand against the scanner. The machine beeped, and the door hissed open. Mara was impressed. You really know this ship well. Zorn smiled slightly. I am familiar with many ships, but this one is special. Inside, the communications room was filled with consoles and screens. Mara hurried to the main terminal. She started typing quickly, trying to send an emergency signal. Come on, come on, suddenly. An alarm blared. The room's doors locked behind them with a solid thud. Mara and Zorn spun around as the walls shifted, revealing a hidden chamber. From the shadows stepped a tall figure, dressed in dark armor, his face hidden behind a helmet. Who are you? Mara demanded, raising her pistol. The figure's voice was cold and mechanical. I am Commander Voker, sent to retrieve the ship and its secrets. Zorn's eyes narrowed. We will not let you take it. Voker laughed softly. You humans are stubborn. You think you can protect what you do not understand. Mara's grip tightened on her pistol. We protect our home. You will not win. Voker stepped forward, raising a strange weapon that glowed with energy, then prepared to be destroyed. Mara fired first, the plasma bolts lighting up the dark chamber. Zorn moved quickly to block Voker's weapon with a strange shield generator. The battle was fierce and close. Mara dodged and rolled, firing bursts at Voker. Zorn used his strength and alien technology to support her. For a moment, it seemed like Voker might overpower them. His weapon was strong and his movements precise. But Mara's determination burned brighter. She saw an opening when Voker reloaded and fired a powerful shot. That narrowly missed her. Quickly, she fired to sharp blasts at his weapon arm. Sparks flew as the weapon short-circuited. Voker growled in frustration, lowering his arm. Zorn took the chance to charge and grab Voker, pushing him against the wall. It is over. Voker struggled, but Zorn's grip was firm. Mara pointed her pistol at his head. You're finished. Voker sneered but said nothing more. Mara exhaled slowly. We need to send that distress signal now. Zorn nodded and began repairing the communications console. As he worked, Mara glanced at the alien. Beside her, despite their differences, they fought side by side, stronger together than apart. Why are you helping me? Mara asked quietly. Zorn looked up. Because our future depends on it. If this ship falls, so do our worlds. Mara understood. Then that the enemy was bigger than she thought. They were not just fighting for their lives, but for hope. The communications console beeped finally. The signal was sent. Mara allowed herself a small smile. Help is on the way. Zorn nodded. Good. But we must still prepare. The enemy will not give up easily. Mara turned back to the door. Then we keep fighting. Together, outside. The ship continued its slow journey through the stars. Inside, two unlikely allies stood ready against the coming storm. The ship's emergency lights flickered like warning signals. As Mara and Zorn prepared for the next wave of attackers, outside the control room, the corridors were no longer empty. They were filled with the sounds of heavy footsteps and the faint hum of energy weapons charging. Mara looked at Zorn, her eyes steady but full of determination. They're coming back, stronger this time. Zorn nodded, his alien features calm but ready. They have numbers, but we have strategy. The two moved swiftly through the narrow corridors, checking every corner and reinforcing every weak point. The ship's design was old but solid, a maze of metal and wires that only someone familiar with it could navigate quickly. Here, Mara said, stopping near a set of bulkhead doors. She tapped a wrist device, and a holographic map appeared. These doors lead to the engine room. If they reach it, they could disable the ship completely. Zorn's glowing eyes focused on the map. We cannot allow that. The engine powers everything. If it fails, we are dead in space. Mara glanced down one of the long hallways leading to the engines. We need a trap. Zorn smiled faintly. I have just the thing. He pulled out a small box from his belt. It was similar to the jammer he had used before, but larger, with blinking lights and strange markings. This is a pulse emitter, Zorn explained. It can disable electronic devices in a wide area for a short time. We can use it to stop their weapons. Mara took the device, impressed. Let's set it up. Together, they hurried down the hall to a narrow room near the engine access. They quickly positioned the pulse emitter in the center and connected it to the ship's power grid. Zorn checked the settings. It will need a moment to charge. Mara glanced at the door, then back at Zorn. We don't have much time. Outside, The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. Suddenly, the bulkhead door blasted open with a heavy boom. The soldiers poured in, weapons raised and ready. Mara fired the first shot, a bright blue plasma bolt that hit the floor near their feet. The soldiers ducked and returned fire. Zorn pressed a button on the pulse emitter. A soft hum filled the room, growing louder. Then, in a flash, a powerful pulse surged out from the device, sweeping across the room like a wave. The soldiers' weapons sparked and went silent. Their energy shields flickered and failed. Mara grinned. Now's our chance. They charged forward, fighting with whatever they had: fists, kicks, and the occasional stun baton Mara pulled from a fallen soldier. Zorn was fierce, using his strength and alien agility to disarm and knock down the attackers. The pulse emitter's energy faded quickly, and the soldiers scrambled to reactivate their weapons. But Mara and Zorn were already ahead. They pushed the attackers back toward the door, forcing them out of the room. "Keep moving," Mara shouted. "We can't let them regroup." They followed the soldiers out into the corridor, where more enemies waited. The fight spilled through the hallways, a mix of plasma fire, shouted orders, and the clash of weapons. Despite the enemy's numbers, Mara and Zorn worked as a perfect team. Mara's quick thinking and precise shots kept the attackers off balance, while Zorn's strength and strange technology turned the tide in close combat. At one point, Mara saw a soldier aiming at Zorn from a side corridor. Without thinking, she dove in front of the blast. The plasma bolt grazed her arm, burning through her jacket. She winced but didn't stop fighting. Zorn reached her side quickly. "Are you hurt?" "A little," Mara said, flexing her fingers. "Nothing serious." He gave a low growl, his eyes scanning for more danger. Together, they pressed forward, determined to protect the ship at all costs. After what felt like hours, the fight slowed. The hostile soldiers retreated, battered and frustrated. Mara leaned against the wall, catching her breath. "That was close," Zorn nodded, his face serious. "They will return. We must be ready." Mara looked down at her arm, the burn now cooling. "We've held them off so far. We will hold them off again." Suddenly, the ship's AI voice echoed through the corridor. "Incoming distress signal detected. Allied forces en route. Estimated arrival in 20 minutes. Mara's eyes brightened. "Help is coming." Zorn placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We must hold the ship until then." Mara smiled, feeling a new strength. "We will." The ship creaked and groaned, but inside its metal walls, two unlikely allies stood strong, ready to fight for their home, their future, and for each other. The ship's carters were silent for a moment, but Mara knew it was only the calm before the storm. The hostile soldiers had retreated, but they were not defeated. Outside, the stars glowed cold and distant, but the battle inside the ship was far from over. Mara stood beside Zorn in the control room. Both were tired, but their eyes were sharp. The ship's systems were barely holding together, flickering lights and warning sounds filling the air. They had less than 20 minutes before the Allies arrived. "We can't just wait," Mara said firmly. "They will come back with more soldiers." Zorn nodded. "I agree. We must prepare for their final attack." Mara checked her plasma pistol, making sure it was fully charged. "We'll need to use everything we have." The ship's AI suddenly spoke. "Warning, power at 50%. Life support systems compromised. Estimated time to failure, 30 minutes. Mara's heart skipped a beat. "Life support. If that fails, we don't stand a chance." Zorn looked thoughtful. "We must find the source of the power drain." They moved quickly through the ship's narrow corridors. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burnt metal. Every step echoed loudly. Mara held her pistol ready. Zorn carried his pulse emitter in a strange glowing blade. Together, they were a strong team. Suddenly, they reached a junction where the walls were scorched and the floor cracked. Mara's eyes caught movement ahead. A group of hostile soldiers working on a panel. "They're draining power from the ship," Mara whispered. "We have to stop them." Zorn nodded. "I will cover you." Mara crept forward, her pistol aimed at the soldiers. With a sudden shout, she fired. Plasma bolts flew through the air, hitting one soldier squarely in the chest. The other's turn, Surprise.ZARN charged from the side, using his blade to disable two soldiers quickly. The battle was fast and fierce. Mara focused on the panel, trying to override their sabotage. Her fingers moved rapidly over the controls, sweat dripping from her brow. Almost there. She muttered. The soldiers recovered and fired back, forcing Zorn and Mara to dodge behind crates and pipes. Mara's heart pounded, but she refused to give up. With one final command, the panel beeped and the power drain stopped. The ship's lights flickered back to full strength. Power restored. The AI announced. Mara breathed a sigh of relief. That should buy us some time. Zorn nodded. Good. But we still need to prepare for the next attack. They hurried back to the control room, where they set up defenses and reinforced the doors. Mara checked her pistol again. We have to hold out until help arrives. Zorn placed a hand on her shoulder. We will. Together. Minutes passed, each one feeling longer than the last. Then, the ship shook violently. The bulkhead doors exploded inward, and a flood of soldiers rushed into the control room. Mara and Zorn fought with everything they had. Plasma bolts flashed, weapons clashed, and the air was filled with shouts and the sound of battle. Mara dodged a blast and fired at the nearest attacker. Zorn blocked an attack with his blade and pushed forward. Despite the enemy's numbers, Mara and Zorn held their ground, but more soldiers kept coming. Mara's arm burned where she had been hit earlier, but she didn't stop. ZARN shouted, focus on the doorway. We must keep it clear. Together, they pushed the attackers back. Suddenly, a soldier lunged at Mara from behind. Zorn reacted instantly, knocking the soldier away with a strong blow. Mara spun and fired a quick shot, taking down another attacker. The fight was exhausting, but Mara and Zorn refused to lose. Then, a bright light flooded the quarter outside. Mara turned to see a fleet of Allied ships arriving, their weapons glowing and engines roaring. The enemy soldiers faltered, panic spreading through their ranks. Mara smiled. Help has arrived. Zorn looked relieved. It is time. The Allied soldiers stormed the ship, pushing the invaders back. Mara and Zorn fought alongside them, their energy renewed. After a final push, the hostile soldiers were defeated or captured. The ship fell silent once more. Mara and Zorn stood in the control room, breathing hard but victorious. Mara looked at Zorn and smiled. We did it. Zorn nodded. Yes, together, we are stronger. The ship was safe, for now. But Mara knew their journey was far from over. The battle was over, but the quiet that settled inside the ship was different from peace. It felt heavy, like the calm after a storm where much was lost and much remained unknown. Mara stood in the control room beside Zorn, watching as the Allied forces secured the ship, their weapons lowered, but their eyes remained watchful. The soldiers moved carefully, checking every corner for hidden threats. Mara rubbed her tired arms. We held the ship, but I wonder, who really sent those soldiers? And why did they want this ship so badly? Zorn's face darkened. There are forces in the galaxy that do not want peace or freedom. This ship holds secrets that could change everything. Mara frowned. Secrets? What kind? Zorn gestured to the ship's main console, where the AI was running scans. This ship was built long ago, not just for travel or war. He said, it carries a device that can control star systems, power beyond imagination. Mara's eyes widened. That explains why the enemy attacked so fiercely. Zorn nodded. If they control the device, they control many worlds. That is why they sent their soldiers. Mara stepped closer to the console, watching the blue holographic images swirl in the air. How do we find this device? She asked. ZARN studied the map. It is hidden deep in the lower decks, in a chamber sealed by ancient technology. Mara felt a chill. Then we must go there before anyone else tries to take it. Zorn agreed. We cannot allow that power to fall into the wrong hands. Together, they gathered their gear and prepared to descend into the ship's depths. The corridors grew darker and colder as they moved downward, the silence broken only by their footsteps. Mara kept her pistol ready, while Zorn held a small glowing orb that illuminated their path. The walls here were covered with strange markings, Symbols neither of them fully understood. This ship is a mystery, Mara whispered. Built by a civilization far older than we thought. Zarn nodded. Yes. And those secrets must be protected. They reached a massive door, covered in symbols similar to those they had seen before. Zarn placed his hand on the panel. The symbols glowed softly, and the door slowly opened with a deep hiss inside. The chamber was large and filled with strange machines. At the center stood a pedestal, and on it rested a small device glowing with a bright blue light. Mara stepped forward cautiously. Is this the device? Zarn nodded. Yes. This device can harness energy from stars themselves. It can power entire planets or destroy them. Mara reached out but hesitated. We must keep it safe. Suddenly, the ship trembled. An alarm blared through the halls. More enemies. Mara said quickly. They found us. Zarn grabbed the device. We must move now. They turned to leave but found the exit blocked by a squad of hostile soldiers. Mara raised her pistol. We have to fight. The battle was intense. Mara and Zarn defended the device fiercely, pushing back wave after wave of attackers. Zarn used the device's energy to create a shield, protecting them from harm. Mara fired with precision, covering the retreat. At last, the soldiers retreated, defeated for now. Mara wiped sweat from her brow. That was too close. Zarn held the device carefully. We must find a safer place for it. Mara nodded. Somewhere no one can reach it. Zarn looked at her. Together, we will protect it. And together, we will decide what to do next. Mara smiled, feeling a new sense of purpose. The ship was not just a vessel, it was a key to the future. And they were the Guardians. The stars outside the ship twinkled quietly, as if watching the final chapter of a great struggle unfold. Inside, Mara and Zarn prepared for what lay ahead. They stood in the ship's command room, the device glowing softly in Zarn's hands. Its blue light pulsed gently, like a heartbeat of ancient power. Mara looked at the device, then at Zarn. We have to protect this. No one can use it for harm. Zarn nodded slowly. Yes, but we must also learn how to use it wisely. The Allied soldiers had secured the ship, but Mara knew the real challenge was only beginning. We should send a message to the Galactic Council, Mara said. Tell them what we've found, and warn them. Zarn agreed. The Council must decide the fate of this device. It is too powerful for any one group. Mara turned to the communications console. Her fingers flew over the controls, sending a detailed report to the distant leaders. Minutes passed, then hours, as they waited for a reply. The ship's crew worked to repair damages, while Mara and Zarn kept watch over the device. Suddenly, a message came through, crackling over the speakers. Message from the Galactic Council. The voice announced, "We have received your report. A team will be sent to secure the device and assist you." Relief washed over Mara. "Help is on the way." Zarn smiled faintly. "Together, we will ensure peace." The days passed slowly. Mara and Zarn shared stories of their worlds, their hopes and fears. They became more than allies, they became friends. One evening, as the ship drifted through the vast emptiness of space, Mara looked out the window at the endless stars. "Do you think we're ready for what comes next?" she asked quietly. Zarn turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "We must be. Guardians of the future are born in moments like these." Mara smiled. "Then let's be ready." The sound of approaching ships broke the silence. The Galactic Council's fleet arrived, shining bright against the dark canvas of space. The Council's representatives boarded the ship, and Mara and Zarn handed over the device carefully. The Council's leaders spoke with respect and gratitude. "You have saved us all from great danger. Your courage and strength will be remembered." Mara nodded. "We only did what was right." Zarn added, "The galaxy is safer now, but we must remain vigilant." The Council agreed and promised to protect the device and use its power only for good. As the fleet departed, Mara and Zarn stood side by side, watching the stars. Their mission was complete, but their journey was just beginning. Together, they would face whatever challenges the future held, for they were not just survivors, they were guardians. Guardians of hope, guardians of peace, Guardians of the Future.